a Swiss graduate, I spent a lot of time overseas. I spent 3 years in total overseas, and prior to that I spent around 2 years in Kuala Lumpur studying in a Canadian program. I think that I am raised in a way that is very lucky. It is both lucky and in a way executed very, very nicely. Last year I had the chance to talk to a few of my parents' friends, father's friends, that asked me, hey, where did you study? Or what did you study? And does that have anything to do with how you are right now? You are well-mannered, you are cultured, and you are more intelligent than some of your peers. I'm not saying this in an egotistical way to show off that, yeah, some people call me smart. I'm far from that. But I do feel a difference between my way of thinking, my way of speech, the way I do things, versus, let's say, peers of my age. And this is because of continually stretching the boundary of acceptance and knowledge through different lenses. Now let me explain. This is some parenting advice. This is some parenting advice from a 24-year-old still living with his parents. Make your kids, should the finances allow, should the transportation and logistics behind that allow, send your kids to as many different environments as possible. From standard 1 to standard 6, I was a government school student. That's how I know a little bit surface level Malay, surface level Chinese, and somehow, miraculously, my English is just naturally better. It just comes naturally to me, rather than Chinese, rather than Malay. Right? It just ended up that way. My parents aren't English educated. They are fully, purely Chinese educated. And somehow my English is just leaps and bounds better than every other language that I speak. That's just the way things happened. I don't know what went wrong. Okay. And then moving on to middle school. Middle school I was in Tembe International, where it was a IGCSE curriculum, which means British. It's a British curriculum. So the difference between Chinese education or government or local education versus international school education is that international school is just more lenient. Slightly more lenient. It is a bit less on the memorization of information and regurgitation of information, because that's what local education is. It is memorizing, memory work, and then regurgitation of information to score. And in IGCSE, it is a little bit of that, but it has more concept work, meaning it wants you to understand processes. It wants you to understand the reasoning behind some things, and in more detail why something happens. So it is a lot less of what and a lot more of why. So that's the difference. But there is still memory work, and it is still application of information that is not that far away from memorization and regurgitation. Now we go to the fun part. After graduating IGCSE, I went to Taylor's CPU. CPU is Canadian Pre-University, and I'm very, very sad that it is no longer available. And CPU is Canadian, therefore it is American style, right? American style, super laissez-faire, super chill. And in terms of hard knowledge, hard memory work, it is not that. It is, of course, it includes memory work, right? Learning just includes memory work. It just wants you to remember the information that you learn. Otherwise, where's the value in that? But it is a lot more of concept work, understanding and application. So on this side is memorization and regurgitation, there's local education. In the middle, for me, that is IGCSE, where there's a little bit of memorization and a little bit of application, but it's not in the territory of being extremely practical yet, right? You're still doing exams. That is how you score, and where there are exams present and there are past papers present, you can effectively just keep practicing, and you will score high in those tests. Which brings me to my point in CPU. The CPU point structure is amazing. I love it. Why? Because it splits your points into individual work, which can be split into further quizzes, tests, assessments, the typical stuff we experience in local education, and presentation work. And it can also be split into another category, which is group work, how well you work with teammates. And across these different categories that they judge you on, you basically have a lot more different flexibility to score. If you are not someone who is good at paper written exams, you can, for all intents and purposes, fail that completely and still pass the course. Whereas in any local education or even IGCSE, if you fail the exam, that's bye-bye, no more, right? And that's how students in American education or Canadian education get more flexibility and get this self-awareness. So that is important. So for you to be able to score high, you have to be well-rounded in the Canadian education. You have to be super well-rounded. You have to perform well with others in group work because it is peer assessed as well. And you have to be good at presentation. You have to be good at public speaking. You have to be able to hold the crowd, because you are judged on that as well. Your ability to hold the crowd, your ability to speak clearly and make presentation and make sense of your point in the shortest time possible, or in the shortest way possible, in the manner that is most effective to be understood. You get points for that as well. And if you are good at written exams, you get points for that. So the difference is, someone that scores highly in local education or IGCSE or A levels or what have you, exam based, someone who scores highly in that is different from someone who scores highly in the American system. So if you see someone who got high scoring in the Canadian system, it means they are extremely well-rounded. Whereas in the government system or in international school IGCSE system, if they score highly in that, you can assume that they are good at receiving and absorbing information, facts, knowledge, and to a degree applying that on a written piece of paper. And I would say that my happiest education, where I truly enjoyed going to class, woke up early to prepare to go to class because I was just so excited, it was in CPU and not in La Roche. La Roche was good, yeah, but it was too chill. Some things I learned from CPU was in fact more in-depth than my education in La Roche. Some things I learned from CPU was in fact more in-depth than my education in La Roche. So that's what you get from studying in a hospitality school in Switzerland. Now the thing that glued everything together was La Roche though. There is no doubt about that. It was glued together. Everything that I learned about flexibility, about exposing the mind to different knowledges from different lenses, from different perspectives and application in real life, it was glued together by La Roche. Because La Roche exposes you to emotional intelligence and things of that spectrum. Right? Education is education, but emotional intelligence, EQ, is something entirely different. And La Roche, where I studied abroad, that was the glue that pulled everything together and molded it into something that is very good for me, which I think is a very good skill set. Exposure to different cultures, exposure to different people, exposure to extreme wealth. Extreme. We had people that went up to us and was like, "Hey guys, let's go to Paris for dinner. I have my private jet waiting for me downstairs." And it was just like, "Oh, okay, sure. Oh, damn. That's another level of wealth." And that's what La Roche does to you. You could be having breakfast with Koreans and dinner with Americans, then having lunch with a bunch of Taiwanese, and for dinner you might be eating with a couple of Russians, fine dining style, and you could be partying with Malaysians, right? That's the level of diversity. There's a level of diversity in La Roche. So that's my 2 cents. That's my 2 cents on education and some parental advice for those who want their kids to be well-rounded, to be able to take shit, to be able to have an open mind to other cultures, other cultures and other stuff, and be able to handle situations that are deemed crazy or very, very difficult to handle. So that's my 2 cents. Alright, I am here. I'll catch you guys soon. Talk to you guys later. Roadshow time. Okay. Cheers.